welcome back to another episode of Hooky Hour. Last time we left off, these two blossoming lovebirds are, I guess, I don't know. I don't know what the relationship status is. It's complicated. Nonetheless, we shall resume with our melodrama right now. See you in a different light. I'm sure there's still plenty more for me to learn. Of all the people I have ever met, you are perhaps the most difficult to predict. Not only do you have no aversion to the darkness, The dark has always been a close friend of mine. Which isn't to say I dislike the sun. Its light can simply be a bit too strong for me. I'm like some kind of unholy monster that can't be exposed to sunlight. You are anything but unholy. My name would suit you much better than me. See, blossoming lovebirds. You love to see it. I'm gonna put the microphone just a bit close. Oh, what was that? I don't know if that was... Ah. That day when I first saw a gazelle, I was wary of her, apprehensive. I didn't want her anywhere near me. Aha, so yeah, this is very intentional. But as my doubts about her faded, I began feeling something very different, as though the lump in my heart had been melted away. I began to yearn for her to be at my side, knowing full well it couldn't possibly last. Knowing full well how foolish it was, I found myself captivated by her. Is this, who is this speaking? I feel like it'd be one of several people. I found myself wishing to have her stay with me. Between Michael, Between Michael, ourselves, possibly? I don't know if we're Michael or the maid. But I guess we'll see, right? That's the whole point of the whole visual novel, is that you gotta keep reading to find out. And that marked the true beginning of their quiet days together in the dark mansion. They acknowledged and accepted each other's presence, no longer isolating themselves, nay, but for a few dog chewing on toy noises, but actively, regularly conversing. As mundane as it might seem, it was something they had been unable to attain until then. Nevertheless, they were still somewhat fumbling around in the dark with one another, drawing closer and pushing away again. Michael, in his own ungraceful way, was beginning to open himself up to the things she said. And the white-haired girl was beginning to smile with greater frequency. They had taken to dining together, and her wish of learning to read was being granted. They would go to various takeout spots like KFC, Cookout. He taught her in the feeble light of a candle placed upon the table, the two sitting across from one another. Though Michel seemed to be well educated, he had not been instructed in the art of teaching, so he found the process quite grueling. But to the white-haired girl, the longer it took, the better. Her primary objective was, after all, to spend time with him. The days passed, and eventually, she reached the point where her comprehension was adequate enough without assistance. She had graduated kindergarten. Her next request, then, was for them to read it through a book together. Have you read every book in the library? No, I stopped looking at them after a while. Most everything I'm sent is dull, uninformative dreck. The Diary of a Lord, foolish make-believe tales. You're not fond of fiction, I take it. What value is there in the lies and fantasies of another? Stories can be invigorating. Tales of adventure can take you places you could never go. Legends of heroes, folklore, stories of otherworldly phenomena. They can be terrifying, and they can be exhilarating. They may not be real, but they give you a little glimpse into the author's heart, that you feel like you're seeing the same thing they saw. You are a very empathetic girl. Fiction inspires nothing of the sort in me. However, perhaps long ago, it may have been able to, though I can no longer remember what it feels like. I'm sure it'll come back to you. You're not an empty man. Sorry. Not to say, not to say you're a full man either. Maybe you're half full, half empty? I'm making you uncomfortable again. How about we read this book today? Your favorite fiction. But it's historical fiction, so it's based on true events. It appears to be a collection of legends. You haven't read this one yet, then? That's good to hear. It'll be more enjoyable if it's a new experience for the both of us. It looks like it's a record of local legends. The book is divided into several sections, though it appears to be mostly superstitions. I am curious what kind of stories this area has. The two of them were looking down at a simple, undecorated volume. I don't know, it looks pretty decorated to me, unless it's all just gunk that is somehow formed into a pattern. As the white-haired girl had said, it seemed to be a collection of local legends passed down generation to generation. They sat across from one another at the table, her turning the pages, and Michel simply watching so as to not brush against her. Eventually, her eyes were drawn to a particular word on one of the pages, bringing her hands to a stop. S-H-I-T? The shitch. The witch. That chapter detailed the story of a witch, or more precisely, said witch's curse. The story went something like this. Now we're going to delve into this story. Have a whole new cast of characters. Oh, this is just like... Yeah, this is just the opening title theme. Cool. There once was a witch, skilled in the dark arts. She lived a meager but peaceful life alongside the villagers. But then, a long, long drought struck the village, which the people blamed on the witch. The witch was sentenced to death, and as the fire blazed around her, smoke rose high into the air. The smoke soon became rain clouds, blessing the village with an end to the drought. The crops were revitalized, and the villagers fancied themselves heroes. However, the rain also brought madness upon the people. Though the earth below them was lush and fertile, the villagers were losing their minds, and they eventually began to take each other's lives. The witch still lived on, in the form of a curse. Many fell victim to the witch's curse, though it did not only take, it also fulfilled people's desires. The villagers had gone mad, but their wish for freedom from the drought had been granted. Thus the legend has been passed down as follows. The witch will grant your wish in exchange for great sacrifice. As smoke in the sky, she watches down upon us from above. To reach the witch, climb for the heavens. But know that road is a road to destruction. The road is a road. You heard it here first. People still believe the witch's legend even now, I suppose. That's why I face accusations of being a witch. This is not an area very welcoming to outsiders, especially one who stands out as much as you. What brought you to this region in the first place? Stop. It's only 8 o'clock. Ah! Stop it. Anyways, mine is a story I'm sure you've heard before. I was cast out of my house. I come from a very poor family. We could barely even afford to keep everyone fed. Being as weak as I am, it was only natural that I would be the first to go. I see. What I don't understand, though, is why the witch is said to grant people's wishes. That is to say, she had reason enough to hold a grudge, but not to give people things they ask for. All we have to go on is a few pages. There's no saying what might have been changed or added over time, and it's almost certain the entire legend isn't written here. That said, if we are to accept everything as written, you can infer what the witch's reason might have been. And that is? If you truly want it that much, you can have it, and I'll make certain your suffering outweighs it. Despair that comes after a moment of happiness is far more agonizing than despair alone. I presume that is why the witch decided to grant people's wishes. That is one way to look at it. It's also my line. May I ask you something? Go on. When I first arrived here, you told me that a cursed witch used to live in this mansion. After reading this legend, I'm now finding it hard to believe you made that up simply to scare me away. I appropriated the tale, nothing more. It is said the witch was born in this house. What? Quite... Excuse me, all this witch stuff making me tired. Quite the place my family found for me. But it was a clever decision putting me here, I think. Not many people are likely to come near a house with such a pedigree. But... no, never mind. That makes sense. I suspect I know what she was going to say then. If the witch is said to grant wishes, then wouldn't that also attract people who so desperately want something? They do not care what price they must pay. And perhaps she was correct. Perhaps there had been those who had come to the mansion chasing after the legend. And perhaps they had encountered Michel, touched him, and lost their lives. On that day in the garden, he had said, "Many things are buried here." Perhaps that included such visitors. And eventually, I don't know, I guess other people. The other people from the other stories. I wonder if that story might be more than mere superstition. If the Witch of Legend really did exist, what would you do? It might be nice to talk to her, maybe. That's all, really? I feel a little bad for her, though. The only people who ever visit her are there to ask for something, after all. I can only imagine just how lonely that must be. I swear I cannot comprehend the way your mind works. Sorry. Although, if we assume the legend is true, I have an idea what climb for the heavens might mean. Oh? The mansion has an observation tower. Or, I suppose, what used to be an observation tower. At any rate, it is quite a tall structure. Observation towers, am I right? Put you right to sleep. This is the house where the witch was supposedly born. A tower reaching for the heavens seems like the perfect place to find her, if she really is here. Oh, yes. I remember seeing a rather tall structure as I first approached the mansion. Would you like to see it? Of course. Please, lead the way. Ooh, alright. Change of scene. The two of them left the library and made their way to the room with a stained glass window. And that is where we'll pick up next time on Hooky Hour. So until then, see ya. Bye.